At WVON.
We're your original social media.
You're listening to Inspirational Perspective with Linal Harris on 1690, The Talk of Chicago.
Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibility. Find your power, passion, and purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dream. Happiness right now. Inspirational perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live the dream. Your purpose now. Inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals, let your greatness flow with inspirational perspective.
Good morning, Chicago. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach right here on WVON 1690 AM, The Talk of Chicago. Inspirational Perspective on your radio is all about murdering mediocrity and living the best life possible. So as I ask you every Sunday morning, are you living the best life possible? And this is the place to be to explore that possibility. Well, good Sunday morning. Man, it feels like summer is officially here. Feels like summer's officially here. Man, I got to say, this is the first Sunday morning I've come in all year 2021 where nothing but a t-shirt, no jacket, no vest, no long sleeves. And so hope you all are enjoying this beautiful weather. Today's conversation I'm excited about because this gives us an opportunity to really review and dig into what we've been talking about over the past 4 to 5 weeks, because over the past 4 to 5 weeks, what we've been doing is having conversations about money. We've been talking about our relationship to money, our mindset when it comes to money or the lack thereof. I mean, we had a conversation about exploring poverty and wealth, if you remember. Then we had Miss Lauren Williams, former Olympic gold medalist, the only woman to medal in both Winter and Summer Games, who is now a certified financial planner, come on the air with us. And we talked about how we should manage money and what the mismanagement of money looks like. We talked about how to protect your money with attorney Ernest B. Fenton, and how to leverage our money and ultimately how to keep our money and to build a solid foundation for ourselves with Sheena Sapala last week, who, by the way, will be back next week to discuss what I believe every person, every millennial wants to know. By the way, did you all know that millennials now dominate the workforce? Did you know that? Did you know that millennials are now the largest population on the planet? And so we're going to have a conversation with them next week about their money and about really how they can get started right away. Sheena Sapala will come back for that. So I'm excited about that. And the other thing that we talked about is ultimately how to keep our money. Let me tell you something right now, man. If you care about your financial status, if you care about the money that you work incredibly hard for, the money that you trade your most valuable resource for, right? And when you say your most valuable resource, time. Almost every last one of us is trading our most valuable resource for money. So if you care about this, if you care about your time, I'm going to tell you something. This conversation is for you. For those of you watching on Facebook, I challenge you to share the stream and let them know, hey, we're having a money conversation. If you got money in your mind, you might want to tune in. But over the last 4 to 5 weeks, my guest and I, we shared a lot of information about money, but information is useless if it's not applied and if it's not used. And that's part of what I want to talk about today. Because I just over the last week I've been thinking, man, what wonderful shows, reviewing some of the content. And what occurred to me is we often don't get it the first time around. And as good as these shows may have been, and as good as these guests may be, and as educated and as intelligent and brilliant as they are with money, do we, the listener, do we really understand what's going on? But even furthermore, how do we take this knowledge, right, and begin to apply it in ways that become useful? And so really today's show is a review of what we learned and my attempt to help us all use this knowledge first and foremost by understanding more about ourselves and more about how many of us handle almost any piece of information that we're given. And so I'm inviting you all to call in, ask questions, call in with comments, call in even with concerns. Because this particular show, this segment today is about really helping you not just understand, but begin to take action on what you heard and what you understand. Now, this money series kicked off with me exploring the difference between poverty, wealth, and those stuck in the middle class. And I say stuck in the middle class because the middle class also has a mindset, and there's a mindset that keeps us in the rat race of the middle class. You might say, Linal, what do you mean by the rat race? Well, the idea that most of us do spend almost all of our waking hours working for someone else. In many ways, another way to think about it is fulfilling the dreams of someone else. And this is a middle class conundrum. And there's a mindset. You have to understand. Well, let me back up a bit because I got time today. You all, we have to understand, and I want you to think about this. When I say working for someone else and creating the dream of someone else, that sounds incredibly harsh. If you really pay attention to the language. And that in itself can trigger someone. And in some ways, that's what I'm looking to do this morning. Because I really want us to wake up to what's happening in our society and what normal is. All right, so let's just kind of back up a bit. What normal is to have, quote unquote, 48 hours to rest, to recharge, and to do you. That this is normal in our society. Afterwards, for the next 5 days, the majority of your time is dedicated to a cause that is not specifically yours. The only thing you get out of it is a paycheck. And you get this paycheck, and this paycheck allows you to, in many ways, join the millions or even billions of others who are all running in the same place, same time, almost literally the same pace. A few of us, what happens is we get ahead of the bunch and we feel like I've achieved something here, when I'm only literally maybe a paycheck ahead, 2 paychecks ahead, maybe 3 paychecks ahead of the bunch in terms of being in poverty. And so this has become normal in our society. And then you got to begin thinking, okay, so if this is normal, how many other behaviors that, when you really dissect them, are abnormal that we've made normal? And that's really what I want to talk about this morning. In the first part of the series, Exploring Poverty and Wealth, what I did is I took an investigation into the root cause of poverty. And what we found is that poverty occurs due to a learned mindset. And this is the piece I really want you to hear. It's a learned mindset. Now, the problem is, once that mindset has taken root, right? And you know, from a child, you grow up and this becomes your mindset, it becomes incredibly hard to, in many ways, pull out the root. You think about a weed right now, lots of weeds growing in many of our lawns, gardens, etc. And if you don't really get down into the soil and get to the root, if you just grab the stem, boom, like nothing happens. In a matter of time, that same weed will come up again. And I really been thinking about this in the context of money and the conversation about money. Because you could say in many ways the conversations over the last 4 to 5 weeks, if we have a poverty mindset or a middle class mindset, maybe what happened is the conversation grabbed the top portion of the weed, and things feel good, things look good. But within a matter of weeks, within a matter of months, this conversation is gone, the weed grows back, the same behaviors persist. And how do we solve for that? How do we get to the root? And so the first episode was an investigation into the root cause of poverty, why it occurs, and how it occurs, and whether it's even possible to escape the poverty vortex. Then, in the same conversation, we took an investigation into wealth, how it operates to preserve itself, and why and how it's protected. And I share with you all my rationale for creating this money series was simple. I was reading an article. In this article, they had some data and statistics looking out into the future, 2050 and beyond. And what it said is two-thirds of the population is on track to become poor than their parents. And for me, my heart dropped. Because as I look around and I look at many of our behaviors, what I see is that this indeed probably is going to be true. And I feel like my purpose on the planet is not just to help myself, but to help others live the best life possible. And I'm gonna tell you all something, I think we all know it. In order to live the best life possible, you have to have money. I'm not going to even, there's no other way to say it. You must have money. Right now, I don't care what you're going through. Many of our health issues. Now, some of y'all, you got money, you got health issues. That's a matter of discipline. It's a matter of knowledge. But many of our health issues come from the root of poverty. Man, same way, many of our relationship issues come from the root of poverty or just lack, right? Many of our money issues, we get the money, we can't keep the money. It comes from the poverty mindset. And the reason we can't fulfill our purpose on the planet is also because we are in a poverty conversation. We are in a lack conversation. So at the end of the day, how do we disrupt that? Now, during the very first episode of the Money series, I talked about this concept of the cognitive frame. And I want to revisit this. And when I talk about the cognitive frame, let me give you a visual to think about, okay? The way this framework looks is it's a triangle. All right, so there's, basically 3 points on the triangle. At the top are your relationships and the knowledge that you have, right? And again, this is what frames your thinking. A cognitive frame, you might call it a thinking frame, right? Or a mental frame. That might be another way to phrase this. So at the top of this triangle is your relationships and your knowledge. And when you think about your relationships, these are the people you interact with. These are the people who you're influenced by. These are the people who are closest to you. And your thinking is framed by these individuals. There's nothing you can do about it. Your thinking is framed by influence. We're social creatures by these individuals. But it's also framed by your knowledge, right? And the reason relationships and knowledge are basically in the same place is because a lot of what you know has to do with the people you are in closest proximity to. I'm gonna ask somebody, one of my clients said, Linal, how did you get all these guests? How do you know these people? Well, these are the people I'm in relationship with. When we talk about this whole money series, these are people I'm in relationship with. Not only am I'm in relationship with them, these are also people I gain knowledge from. Not just knowledge about money, knowledge about world affairs, knowledge about spending, knowledge about saving, knowledge about ways of being. And this is what we don't account for often in our thinking, that the people around you are informing you on how to be. Now, this is just the top of the triangle, of the cognitive frame, or the mental model, or the mental context in which we think. Because then, as we come to the other side of the triangle, you could say this over here is demands of the environment. The demands of the environment. And when I'm concerned about my safety, when I'm concerned about the safety of my family, when I'm concerned about how I'm going to pay bills, right? The demands of my environment have a lot to do with my overall ability to think. And so that's also a part of the cognitive frame. But then you have on the other side of that triangle, your resources. And I'm going to come back to resources, but resources I defined before are broken down into 11 different categories. You can think of this radio show as a resource. And so your thinking is basically framed by those three things: relationships and knowledge, the demands of the environment, and the resources you have available to you, or the resources you do not have available to you also frame your thinking. All right, so why is this important? And by the way, I'm just going to be straight with you all. This is not necessarily a sensational show, but if you care about your money and you care about how you spend money, if you care about why you've been doing things in an unconscious way, like if you don't even know how much money you spent yesterday, how much money I spent yesterday, how much money do I have? If these are questions that you ask yourself and you really want to get to the bottom of it, you really want to get to the bottom of why you don't save, you really want to transform your money behaviors, then this show is for you. If you're looking for sensationalism today, I don't have it. You're looking for an emotional experience, and you might get mad. Other than that, I don't have it. I'm just being straight. All right, so cognitive framing. So we talked about this, and today I'm going to spend a lot of time here. So before we go any further, I want to share the number one reason I believe that most people, even you all listening to me right now, many of you, the majority of you, can't change your money behavior. All right? Here's why. Our cognitive distortions keep us trapped in a certain cognitive frame. Now, what does this mean? Well, let's talk about a cognitive distortion. If you got a notebook, you want to write this stuff down. A cognitive distortion is a mental illusion. We all have them. So right now, somebody's like, well, that ain't me. Yes, it is. Every last one of us, every human being on the planet has one or more of 16 cognitive distortions. This work was done by Dr. Burns some time ago, a leading psychologist, who basically evaluated human beings and just wanted to see, well, how do we think? Like, what are some of the automatic ways of being and thinking that we have? And in this work, Dr. Beck and Dr. Burns found that most human beings, the majority of human beings, have some type of cognitive distortion that leads their thinking that they created at a young age, that they believe from an experience, from some level of trauma, whatever it may happen, will keep them safe and keep them protected and keep them alive. And so we lead with this type of thinking in almost every last one of our activities, and we are unaware of it. So another way of describing a cognitive distortion is by saying that it's a biased perspective. One of the things we've been talking about is, since 2020 with the murder of George Floyd, the anniversary is in a couple of days. We talked a lot about bias last year. Bias against the African American community, which is often perpetrated through the media, right? Let me give you an example. You'll notice that, not often can you turn on the news and see a mugshot of a white man and descriptions of all of the crimes that he committed, murder, theft, whatever it may be, right? But you can turn on the television and see that for a black man, right? Quote unquote black man. And what that does is it feeds a bias. It's subconscious. We're not aware of it. And it feeds the bias that, well, black men are dangerous. I need to keep my guard up around black men. And this is what we feel perpetrated against many black men, is a hyper, seems like vigilance and violence coming from police, often hyper fear coming from others, and even the police, which is why they're so violent, because they're afraid. And that fear and those thoughts are perpetrated through subconscious media indicators that create bias that many aren't aware of. They're not even aware they have the bias. They're not sure why they're afraid. Or they believe they know why they're afraid, even though they haven't had a personal experience. This is a cognitive distortion. Cognitive distortions are biased perspectives. Now, I'm using that as an example because let's switch it back to money. Many of us have some of the same fears, same biased thoughts. And when I say same, like in the same category as a cognitive distortion about money, and we're not aware of it. And so a cognitive distortion is a biased perspective that we project onto ourselves and the world around us. Another way of thinking about this is that it's an irrational thought and belief that we unknowingly reinforce over time. Now, let me give you some facts. I'm just thinking through how I want to go about this. Let me give you some facts to back this up. Many of our grandparents or our great-grandparents had a bias against the bank in our community. You may recall grandma keeping money under the mattress. You might actually hear some of our grandparents and great-grandparents say, I don't trust no bank. Okay? Now, that lack of distrust is founded. It's founded because there was a time where the money of African Americans and African American banks was taken away. It's a fact. You can go Google it, right? And so this fear they have is founded. But what happens is that was a fear that took place in their time, their day. Okay? And I think we can say that in 2021 is relatively safe overall, especially if the bank is FDIC insured, to have our money in a bank. It's not going to be taken away. All right? But that fear that our great-grandparents had with the bank, that was founded, and that fear that our grandparents had, that was founded because these things happened, in many ways it was passed on to us in our cognitive framing. Again, remember, these are the people we're in relationship with. You be careful putting all that money in that bank. Little comments, stories, and that was passed to our parents. And so then when it comes to investing, when it comes to saving, when it comes to these certain things, there's a cognitive distortion or there's a bias that, well, that's not safe to do. The money I have is the money I need to keep and the money I need to spend, because if I don't get to spend it, it can be taken away from me. And this is something it's multi-generational. And it, in many ways, is no longer founded. It's an irrational thought and belief, but it's been reinforced over time. And so we behave accordingly without even knowing it. And that's just one example. I can keep going with life insurance. We had a caller last week say, well, you know, my mom bought life insurance, but we couldn't get it. How do you stop these corrupt companies from taking your premiums and not paying out? Like, so, and I'm not saying these things haven't happened, but a lot of times it's happened to us because we lack the full range of knowledge on how to manage the transaction from A to Z. And so then as a result, we stop before we even get a chance. All right. So another way to think about a cognitive distortion is that it's a tendency or a pattern of thinking and believing. And hear me out. It's a tendency or pattern of thinking or believing. So let's say you invested in the stock market at one point and you already were incredibly afraid. You don't know why you were so afraid to do it, but you were incredibly afraid. Then you lost a couple of $1,000s. And now you're saying to yourself, you know what? You lose. And that becomes a pattern in your thinking. It's not necessarily founded on strong data. What do I mean by that? Well, I think we all know that any trend has to be founded by more than one data point. You lost once, right? But we'll take that data point and make it the truth. That's another cognitive distortion, right? It's a pattern of thinking or believing that's not based in fact, not based in a solid trend. Or another way to say it is that it could be false or inaccurate. Many of us have money beliefs that are false or inaccurate. And typically, cognitive distortions are the source of our negative thinking towards ourselves, towards others, and towards institutions, especially if it's not backed by facts. Okay. So now that we kind of have an understanding of what a cognitive distortion, again, it's a mental illusion. It's something, it's a tendency or a pattern of thinking or believing that we use in the world all around us. We're going to go through a few. How does this apply to money? Well, I want you to think of another simpler way of framing this is talking about it in terms of a fixed mindset and an expansive mindset. Again, we're talking about money. If I have a fixed mindset when it comes to my money, then there is an inherent belief. And again, you all, I want to be clear about something. These are not conscious beliefs. So as you listen to me, before you say, that's not me. Oh, no, that's not me. That's not me. I don't do that. What I want you to do is more so observe your behavior. Because consciously, most of us are intelligent enough to, if there was something actually going on, we would stop it. But what's happening is the subconscious mind is programmed. And because the subconscious mind is programmed, we're behaving in ways that we're unaware of. And when we look at the reality of our circumstance, when we look at what's really truly going on, we don't have money. We don't have wealth. We're not prepared for the future. We continue to find ourselves in the same financial situation, and you have to pay attention to that reality in contrast to your conscious thinking. Because your subconscious mind is what perpetrates most of your behavior. Okay? So when I talk about a fixed mindset and an expansive mindset, most of us say, well, I don't believe that, I don't think that, but I want you to look at the reality of the circumstance and situation that you live in. A fixed mindset says, my potential is limited. My failures are clear indicators of my lack of ability. I only seek opportunities that will allow me to demonstrate my abilities in a comfortable way. I don't want to be uncomfortable. This is a fixed mindset. And if any of these things are clicking, consider you may have a fixed mindset in that area. Hold on one second. Hey, Justin, we getting calls? Okay, all right. And Art, I see you. I just want to make sure. Okay. So Art, I see you. I'll grab you in a moment here. The lines are ringing, that's all. So with a fixed mindset, my finances have been limited. I'm changing the language now. There are clear indicators of my financial failures and my lack of financial ability, which means I have a fixed money mindset. And I'm not really open to seeking money opportunities that make me uncomfortable. And I avoid all risk and ambiguity in financial conversations or financial matters at all costs. I avoid it. If that's me, I have a fixed money mindset. Now you might say, well, Linal, I don't avoid it. I'm listening right now. Let me give you an example of what I mean. We had a great conversation with attorney Fenton. Many of you all hear him week in, week out. If something that attorney Fenton said on the show when he was with me and we were talking about establishing a trust and protecting our finances, if something he said resonated with you and you thought to yourself, you know what? I need a trust. I need to set myself up. But you didn't take action, or you felt fear at the thought of calling his office, you might have a fixed money mindset. There's something else at play. There's a subconscious fear that is holding you back from taking action when it comes to money. And the reason I'm having this conversation is because the only way to transform it is to become aware of it. I think you have, man, on a Sunday morning, between 20 to 50,000 people that might listen. Of that 20 to 50,000, if I were to get Attorney Fenton on the phone right now and say, well, how many people have called you in the last 3 weeks based on that show? I would say that it would probably be under 100 people. Which means if we do some fast math, that's less than 0.001% of the people who heard that conversation, know there's something to put in place, know there's something they must do, that actually took action based on what they heard, based on the information they gained, and took action. Less than 0.001%. Now, I just want you to really understand where I'm coming from here. Many of you all listen to VON day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. And you will admit that you gain lots of great information. So why is it a vehicle like this radio station that serves our community and all the great information that it has, why isn't our community, based on the number of people listening, transforming? It's because many of us have fixed mindsets. So we're listening, but it's going through a filter in our mind that says, oh, that sounds good. That sounds really good. Man, that's something I should do. That makes so much sense to me. But when it comes time to actually take action, there's something in the subconscious mind that says, oh, now you don't want to be taken advantage of. You don't know what you're doing. Or maybe it's not even calling Attorney Fenton's office, okay? It might be reading a text or a book. Now, what you gonna do ordering that book? You know you can't understand that language. You know you don't understand those things. Why you gonna waste your time doing that? You might as well, matter of fact, you've been working so hard, you might as well relax. You didn't cook, the children, just sit down and watch some television. What you ordering a book for? You ain't gonna read that book, no way. And this is how our negative self-talk is informed by the subconscious that has been framed within the cognitive distortion or the mental illusion that I've been talking about that keeps you stuck. Now, what is an expansive mindset? When you have an expansive mindset, you believe and you act. You're going to hear me say that a lot today. As if your potential is unlimited and everything you do depends on your effective effort. You know that in order for something to change, I must take action, but not just any type of action. It must be effective action if I have an expansive mindset. You also believe that your failures provide valuable feedback on how to improve. So if I invested money and I lost that money, then there's something I can learn from that to become a better investor. I don't just stop and inform myself that it doesn't work, investing doesn't work, but I look for ways within my failures to find valuable feedback that will help me improve my investment competence. This is an expansive mindset. And I always seek opportunities to learn new things. And by the way, when I talk about learning here today, it's not just hearing the information, but it's also then applying. That is real, true, comprehensive learning. Applying the information in a way that can be repeated over and over again, because now it has become a learned action. And finally, you fully engage yourself in the pursuit of brand new solutions, right? Brand new solutions. So back to the 100 or so that may have called Attorney Fenton's office. They were engaged in the pursuit of brand new solutions because they have an expansive mindset. I don't know what this man is going to say. I don't know how much it costs. What I do know is that this is something I need to do. And because I believe my potential is unlimited, I want to secure my financial future. Let me make this phone call. Okay. Now, when we come back, I'm going to begin sharing with you all how to escape these mental illusions or these cognitive distortions and how to bring awareness to them. And this is an invaluable conversation. As a matter of fact, this is the first conversation I begin to have with my clients when they work with me. The first month we spend on helping them distinguish their cognitive distortions. And the reason why is because nothing can transform until we become aware of our frame of thinking. And when I become aware of that frame of thinking and I begin to see it everywhere, then I begin to understand why I act the way I act, why I do the things that I do. And from that place, from that awareness, I begin to gain new choices. Well, I don't want to act that way. That's a choice, right? Now I can say, well, I'm not going to act that way. That's a choice. Or I don't want to think that way. That's a choice. And then from that place, those new choices will take us to new places. We'll discuss more of that when we come back. Art, I see you. Jerry, I see you. I'll get you at the top of the hour when we come back. You've been listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, and life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. We're having a money conversation in the second hour. Call in with your questions and thoughts. 773-591-1690. We'll be right back.
You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Play your goals, live out your dreams.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I'm 19 years old, and this is how.
All right, good morning, you guys. Let me know if this is making sense for you guys. Let me know if this is making sense. I got to tell you, this has been on my heart all week. And it's funny because my wife was like, what you talking about tomorrow? I'm like, I don't know. Because I really didn't know how to frame it. And how to, like, I was like, man, how do I discuss this in a way that we really, really get it? Because I'm on the air week after week, and we've been talking money for the last 4 to 5 weeks. And I've been thinking to myself, like, are listeners really, really, really getting this? And when you think about all the noise and the chatter in media, like, are they really going back, listening to these episodes over and over again until, like, it sinks in? Like, because if you care about your money, and by the way, like, where did I get this conversation from in the first place? Beginning of the year, I put out a survey. Like, hey, what do you guys feel like you need to know? What do you want to know? And what came back overwhelmingly, we're going to talk about this going through the summer, is number one was, man, how to be successful in the workplace. We're going to spend a lot of time there over the summer. I'm going to have a series especially for you guys. And let me tell you, I'm going to share on the air, when it comes to your career and your work, information that I get paid lots of money in corporate America to share. Organizations bring me in to talk to their high performers, train their high performers on how to go to the next level. I'm going to share that for free right here on the air if you're tuning in. That's coming this summer. But I just been asking myself, so much great information. Lauren Williams, attorney Ernest Fenton, Sheena Sapala. We talked about the poverty mindset, wealth mindset, middle class mindset. So much good information. What are we doing with it? And it would pain me to have a series like that, and for many of you who listen week in and week out, not make any changes. Like that's my deepest fear. And so my wife and I, let me tell you, like, these are things that we already know, and just covering it again
and reiterating this information has made us change things, take action that, just from this series, like we're taking action. And we're fairly financially set. Estate plan in place, retirement in place, insurance in place, but we're taking action. And so if those things aren't in place for you and you're not taking action, I hope you really hear me today. Hope you really hear me. What questions do you guys have? Real quick. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for being here. What questions do you have? Go ahead and if you already put them in the chat, just place them. Sorry, just gotta make sure I can hear the commercial break.
Good.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, we were getting calls, but there was this one particular dude who keeps calling Milton.
Oh yeah, okay.
He keeps calling. And it's like,
yeah, sorry. I got you. All right, good. Thank you for that, Cantice. Shalia said it was Sheena for me. I took action right after that show. Beautiful, beautiful. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Taking immediate action. Taking immediate action. But if you have questions, drop them. And by the way, if this segment is making a difference for you, or you know somebody that this segment will make a difference for, share it, tag them. Say, hey, I love you. I care about you. I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen to this conversation about money, an intimate conversation about money. Because here's the thing. It's funny. I was talking to a senior leader at an organization this past week. They're bringing me in to do some corporate training. And she was like, you know what's different about you from most trainers? She was like, you bring a hybrid approach. You don't just train, but you also push for awareness around the information that you're training. And she's like, this is one of the reasons, because my business, I don't really advertise. It's all word of mouth. She's like, this is why you came so highly recommended, because I was taking her through a demo of what I'll be training. She's like, this is great. Oh my God, you bring the coaching and the information. And what I realized on the show is we've been bringing lots of information without the coaching, or at least without the coaching perspective, right? The psychological perspective. And that's what this conversation is all about. Sheena's coming back next week. She's going to inform those in the millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z on how to make some money moves that will secure your financial future. But what good is information if we don't act on it? If we're not aware of what gets in the way? And so that's why we're having a conversation. By the way, I see a few of you talking about insurance in the stream. As a reminder, if you want to connect with Sheena, you can give my office a call, 312-899-6245. What we're doing is basically just filtering, because there's we got a few phone calls. We're like, nah, we're not sending them to Sheena. Most of you all, though, we are sending. And we're just filtering, asking some specifics, and then passing you along, and she'll reach out. And so if you want to make those moves, you're still like you're like, hey, I plan to take the action, Linal. Go ahead, give my office a call, 312-899-6245. Here's the other thing. If you're curious about your own cognitive distortion, give me a phone call. Let's have a conversation. Typically within 5 minutes, I can distinguish it. I'll tell you. So let's see, I like this. We're coming back to, I think when you haven't been doing these things, it can be difficult to know which and where to start. Especially when you're navigating that voice that's telling you got to get stuff together before you start. That's a good one to catch. How do you prioritize where to start? Great question. We'll talk about that.
Expressed in our programs are not necessarily those of WVON, Midway Broadcasting Corporation, or our participating sponsors.
If you wanna be about it, come on, let's you see. Open your mind to possibility. For your power, passion, and purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dream. Yes, right now. Inspirational perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live the dream. Your purpose now. Inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals, let your greatness flow. With inspirational perspective.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. This morning, we're having an intimate conversation about money. Over the last 4 to 5 weeks, we've been talking money. I've had a number of phenomenal guests on the show, giving us all types of money wisdom, money information. And in light of that, the question is, what action have we taken? And if we haven't taken action, why? And I really want to get underneath that, and we've been talking about that quite a bit. Where we are now is discussing cognitive distortions, the mental illusions that we have that often keep us from taking action because of that negative voice that's informing us you don't know what you're talking about. Or just on the Facebook stream here, someone said, I don't know where to start. You know, what do I need to do before I even start? And so how do we get past that? Or even where do we start? We'll cover that more in this next hour, but let's start with some phone calls. Art, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, young man. How are you, sir?
I'm well.
Good. You know, the statement I'm about to make is I'm a nobody, but somehow, somewhere in my conscience, someone's asking me to challenge in a positive way some of the people who are in leadership. And I look at you as a person in leadership.
Okay.
And you started off your conversation with the root, which was very enlightening. And then you said we started with the, most times with the leaves and all these very different things. And I think that the root of all the things that you were speaking about starts with family. And I know the word family and community and codes of conduct is not a sexy word with most people. They don't want to, it doesn't bring out the sparks and all that. And nobody really wants to talk about it. But what you're talking about is, when you deal with the root, is family. And most people go off of what their family members, mom and dad, whoever's the responsible parties, have been teaching or what they saw. And when you get into life coaching, I challenge you, because I think you are very equipped to really get down into family, because all the things that you and Tony Fenton speak about, it really starts with the root of family and some form of community codes of conduct and family values. And I hope one day you all get into that part, because everybody likes to talk about money and all different things because it's sexy, relationships. But when you get down to it, I notice you always refer back to your mother, your father, and then you talk about your core unit, which is your wife and your son. And basically the practice of what you operate from is family and leads up to all these different things. And I'll leave you with that. But I challenge you all to really dig deep. And I know it's not sexy to a lot of people, but family is the core of all of the things that you all talk about. And I leave you with that, and may God continue to bless you all.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Art. That's a good word. I accept the challenge. I'm already thinking about how that can be done. Because I agree. Even in what we're talking about today, it's the cognitive framing I talked about, the cognitive distortions, mental illusions, subconscious ways of being, all are informed by family. In many ways, the biggest challenge we have in our community, I agree with Art, is family. And I like the way you put it. Like, if we're going to talk about the root versus actually pulling up the weed, then we need to discuss family. I firmly agree.
And even in this conversation, I can accept that feedback that a money conversation outside the context of family is like pulling the weed and leaving the root. I agree. I can accept that feedback. That's really good. Yet here we are. So I'm not going to just up and change the topic, but what I will do is create an intention right now in this moment to actually do a series on family. And so you have my word on that, Art, so we can get to the root. And I think that it's something that's incredibly necessary, and conversations that are incredibly necessary. And I think you guys know that for me, I'm not on the air for ratings and to talk about things that grab people's attention. I think I learned years ago when I started this work that talking about self-development, the way I talk about self-development, having conversations about improvement are not sexy. They do not go viral. I mean, if I was in the business of trying to go viral, then I wouldn't be doing this. But what I am in the business of is transforming the minds of the people who do listen and the people who are willing to make the sacrifice to tune in. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback. And it is heard, it is processed, and it is taken. And I intend to take action on that and have a family series and bring in some thought leaders, relationship experts, family experts who can support a conversation like that to really instruct us on how to be family, how to create a family, and talk about the importance of family in our community, because that's what's missing. It's a huge missing. And part of it is the presence of the nuclear family in our community is part of why we're in such distress. I firmly believe that. Our distress in the past, when we had family intact, came from the outside. And that outside influence in many ways dismantled the family. And so this is one of the reasons they don't have to persecute us the way they used to, because the family has been dismantled, and now the distress is coming from inside the community versus coming from outside the community. And so that's well received. Okay, Jerry, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. How you doing, my brother?
I'm well.
You always made, but check this out, man. I was right in some respects. Let me show you something about right. First of all, why are we following anybody when we have key in our head?
I didn't catch that. Hold on. Go back to that.
Go back to that.
I didn't catch that. What was that?
Why are we following other people's lead when we have the solution in our own head?
Oh, I got you.
Why are you following everybody's idea of what's being rich? Why are you buying these things that you think is going to make you look better? And what are you doing that for, brother? First of all, you talked about poverty at the very beginning. When you get you a job and you start working, you know what the wise man does? He looks at how that business is being put together. He's talking to everybody at that job to see how their job fits and help him. At the end of the day, if he steps away 6 months later and starts creating him a similar situation that's like that company he's working for on the side while he's yet working for that company, he's got him a side business. In 5 years, he's rolling. He can quit that job. It's our mentality. Let me show you one other thing. And then it's just our attitudes about life, man. First of all, if you're going to be in a family way and get with a woman or somebody like that, what y'all doing laying up in the bed? What are y'all doing there laying there making children? For what? I don't get in bed with nobody. We're making plans, man, about business. Once we've completed some business and showed some success, now we can celebrate. What you celebrating for? Now you got a child you can't take care of.
But you know what, Jerry? But to that point, this is why I'm in the conversation. And, so let's go back to the poverty mindset.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to the poverty mindset, this is why we make by the way, let's not even call it a decision. All right, because the thing about cognitive distortions is that we behave in ways that we're unaware of. And so let's go back to the young lady and young man who lay down and make a baby and they're not a family and perpetrate more of what's going on in our community. Let me be clear, bro. If they really were aware of the impact and the responsibility that takes, they wouldn't have done it. But we are unaware. And this is what I'm pointing to today. Most of us are completely unaware of why we do what we do.
You do it because somebody else told you, right?
And that's what, man.
But let me show you this real quick to show you how simple getting out of poverty is, my brother. I had a friend. She said, oh, I'm in debt with all this stuff. I said, let me show you something. I told her save $18 a day. And she would save $18 a day. Within a year or two, she had $20,000 or $30,000 off that $18 a day. But you get an average man $18 a day, where you run down to the barbecue point and get him something to eat, drink, or whatever. That $18 a day times 100 is $1,800, man. Multiply that times 3 times, you got over $10,000 your first year. What are you doing blowing your money on something you don't even need?
But again, you have to be aware. You have to be aware.
Okay, so then here's the last piece, man. You gotta think, man. Me and my boys, we was on the job. We said, man, let's start getting the crib and stuff. So we went half on the house. It was a 2-flat. He said, man, forget living fancy. You ain't gonna live in the basement. He lived in the basement, and he rented out first and second floor. Within 3 years, that house was paid for. He was reduplicating the same thing with somebody else.
There you
go. You don't need no job, man.
Yeah. I mean,
why y'all all thought have a big house you can't even afford?
But it's
and you wonder why they foreclosed on you. You trying to live the life somebody else told you need to live. What about living the life that you know about? What about taking it basic to the point you won't have any needs? We don't even worry about money now. Do you know we just collectors? We use old money, we just collect up, and we trying to help other people to get ahead. But you got to start with the seed in your own mind and break away from the system, the traditions, and everything else. I'm going to leave you with this. This is personal for you. I remember you told us way back at the beginning, you was working a job, right? You was in management, brother. You didn't even have a college degree, but guess what? You had a mind, and you knew you could do that work. You didn't even let the color of your skin disappoint you, and as a matter of fact, you used the color of your skin to get up in a higher position because you were thinking. The man that thinks always outdo that. If you got 26 plans, and that's A through Z plan, get number 27 because you might need it. But if you don't plan, you're going to plan to fail. That's just as simple as that.
That's right.
Appreciate you.
I agree with that. Well spoken, Jerry. I love your passion, brother. And he's pointing to the right things. His questions were, why are we doing what we're doing? And he also kind of gave the answer and said we're being told to do it. And this is ultimately what I'm talking about. Like, we're being told to do so much. Our subconscious mind is being bombarded by instructions. I challenge you all to do this. I challenge you to do this. Today, when you're watching television, I hate watching television. I hate watching live television, and here's the reason why. Because I hate commercials. Why do I hate commercials? Because I would not let another grown man, just hear me out. I would not let another grown man walk up to me and tell me what to buy, who I did not know. Hey man, you need to grab this Cadillac. No, better yet, you need to get this Lexus. Right now. Matter of fact, they got a great sale going on, bro. Make it happen. I wouldn't let somebody come and talk to me like that. I wouldn't give a person I don't know the ear. Many of you all, if you're walking down the street, someone walks up to you and they're like, hey bro, let me show you this. You don't want to hear anything they have to say. But here's what commercials do. Commercials in some way captivate us, and the same brother who you would not give your ear on the street, you now give your ear to an entity, to a corporation, to an institution that cares nothing about you but getting you off the couch to spend your money. In fact, they've gotten so good you don't have to get off the couch. All you got to do is pick up your phone and get on Amazon or get on anywhere and buy their product. If I wouldn't give someone walking on the street with me, live, who is approaching me to buy their product, the time of day or the year, then why am I watching commercials? Like, I'm like, man, turn it off, fast forward it, do something. I don't like watching live TV, because if I won't give a physical man or woman my ear who is trying to sell me something I know I don't need, why would I do it to an invisible institution that I know cares nothing about me and I don't even see where the money's going? I want to make my own decisions. And many of us, our subconscious mind is being bombarded every day by hours and hours. The average American is watching 4 hours of television. 4 hours of television a day, which means that within that 4 hours, you watched an hour and 20 minutes of commercials. If you're watching live television, you watched an hour and 20 minutes of commercials, and so your mind has been bombarded by things that you think you now need, you think you now want, and you wonder why you have spending problems. Jerry hit it on the head, man. He hit it on the head. And then Shalia just said it. It's not just commercials. These messages are now in the TV programs in general. Because what they do is they'll have a product. Can I pick this up? They'll have a product and they'll put the label of the product real smooth right in front of you, right? And you see the product and you be like, oh, that's what they use. The actor's not using that. They're programming you. They're programming you. So Jerry, you hit it on the head. And part of what I want to do today, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation, is I want to disrupt the program so we get into action with our own program. And we begin challenging the current program that's running. So to that point, I got a question over the break from a Facebook listener. And by the way, keep the questions coming on Facebook, you guys. This is great. I'm just going back to it real quick. Here we go. All right, so the question was, Linal, I think when you haven't been doing these things, talking about financially, it can be difficult to know which and where to start, especially when you're navigating that voice that's telling you, you got to get stuff together before you start. How do we prioritize where to start? Love that question. I absolutely love that question. This is the reason I'm having a conversation about cognitive distortions, because the other thing that we get caught up with is the right and wrong way to do things. I'm gonna tell you all something. There's nothing more powerful than absolute action. If you've been listening over the past few weeks, and this is where you find yourself stuck, right? Because I get it. We're human. And when you get into money conversations, man, it can be a lot. Because money is that resource for many of us that matters. I mean, it matters. So then we're having conversations about money and, well, do I get my trust first? Do I get life insurance first? Do I just start saving my money? And so I have enough money so I don't feel embarrassed when I'm having a conversation with the agent, or I don't feel embarrassed. And I want you all to notice something. All those questions keep you stagnant. Not one of them gets you into action. You must take absolute action. There is no wrong action to take. There is no just do it. Just get in. Like, you could go in the order of the show. It doesn't matter, but start the action. You can be like, well, I don't, okay, I got this number down here. I'm just going to call Linal's office, 312-899-6245. I don't know what else to do. Do that. Do that. Take action. Just take some action. There's always going to be resistance to action. And that resistance is nothing more than a voice in the head that's justifying your inaction. So consider that any conversation internally that you're having about money that is keeping you from taking a defined action is resistance. And it's being sourced by your cognitive distortion and your subconscious framing. Because check this out. Most of us are not thinking twice about spending. So why are we thinking twice about investing? Why are we thinking twice about buying life insurance? Why are we thinking twice about establishing a trust? Why are we thinking twice about where to save? Why are we thinking twice about what bank to choose? Why are we thinking twice about where to invest? Why are we thinking twice? Because that's where you're supposed to take action. Action, action, action. That's the most powerful way to overcome a cognitive distortion. It's the most powerful way to transform. Take action. We can have conversations all day. I love the question because it's a question that gets us into action. Thanks for the question. Phenomenal question. Okay. So let's get back into the notes. So here's the thing. Everything starts with awareness. Everything. Jerry called out some things in terms of awareness. Art called out some things around family in terms of awareness, right? At the end of the day, the most powerful practice you can take on is questioning what you do and why you do it. Because it's going to drive awareness. That awareness begins to create brand new choices. This is the first model I take my clients through. Okay? How do we help you gain awareness around your cognitive distortions? Because as you begin to gain awareness on those areas, what will happen is you'll be like, wow, I do think like that. Oh my God, this thinking is everywhere. And it starts to create new choices. You know what? I don't want to think like that. I want to do this, new choice. You know, I don't want to stay stagnant in this area. I want to go over here, new choice. It begins to create new choices. Then the work becomes choosing what we need to choose with powerful intention. Choosing what we need to choose with powerful intention. And then from that place, when we choose with powerful intention, transformation begins to happen in our lives. And you get into that cycle and you'll just grow. You'll grow. What's the choice today? Are you going to operate moving forward with a fixed mindset or an expansive mindset? So I spent the whole first hour, 90 minutes on cognitive framing. I didn't expect to do that. But that's all right because we had time. And that's what this is about today. So what questions do you have? Again, for anyone just tuning in, what is a cognitive frame? A cognitive frame is really the framework overall of your thinking. At the top is your relationships and knowledge is part of how your thinking is framed. The demands on your environment is part of how your thinking is framed. And your resources or lack thereof is part of how your thinking is framed. People in poverty think different. The middle class thinks different. Those in wealth think different. Because how they think is different, what they create is different. People in poverty create more poverty. The middle class stays stuck. And people with wealth get richer. It's all about the thinking. It's all about the thinking. It's all about the thinking. How do you expand your cognitive frame? You shift your relationships. You apply the knowledge. You gather more resources. And you do the best that you can to keep absolute demands in your environment at an all-time low. This is one of the reasons you save. Because if I have a savings account, when a demand is placed on my environment it is not as taxing or overwhelming if I have money saved. And so then my thinking is still open and deliberate. I'm not reactionary. Okay. Question. Do you believe you are capable of learning whatever is necessary for you to achieve your financial goals? I'm going to ask the question again, because the answer on the other side of this is incredibly important. Do you believe that you are capable? No, let me pour into you a little bit. You are a child of God. And because you're a child of God, you're made in the image of God. Because you're made in the image of God, you are a creator. He's a creator. You are a micro creator, meaning you can create anything that you put your mind to. And so this morning, do you believe that you are capable? Do you believe that you are capable? See, one of the reasons we don't take action is because there's a seed of disbelief, unbelief. It's like, who you think you are? So you're going to save your money. Oh, so you're going to get a life insurance policy. Oh, you're going to get a trust. What you need a trust for? You don't got nothing. And see that unbelief, the lack in really believing in who we are, that's what slows us down. Many of us, we haven't taken action because we're listening to that voice. And here's the thing. If I walked up to you and said it to your face, you slap me, but you're not turning off that voice. You're not turning off that voice, though. You won't let nobody else say it to you. Why are you saying it to yourself? Why are you allowing yourself to talk to yourself that way? Do you believe that you are capable of learning whatever is necessary for you to achieve your financial goals? If the answer is yes, it's time to take action, because all belief has to be backed by action. What are you going to do starting today to change your financial situation, to change your financial trajectory, to change overall your financial legacy and your family and people who have your name? What are you going to do today? Act on that belief. See, let me talk about the composition of belief real quick. Joel, I see you. See, the composition of belief is like this. When I believe something, it's nothing more than the cognitive acceptance of a thought, the mental acceptance of a thought. I believe it. I'm accepting that. This morning, Linal, I accept what you just said. I do believe I am a creator. I am a child of God. I am made in his image. That makes me a creator. And I accept that thought. And because I accept that thought, I can declare financial freedom over me. I can declare it over my family. And I experience the emotion of that thought. I can feel it right now. And because I can feel it, I now have the courage to take action that align with these thoughts. This is the composition of belief. So this morning, do you believe it? Like, do you believe it? Because if you believe it, then you're going to start acting differently. You're going to be behaving differently. See, it comes down to belief, you all. How do I know? Okay, so you listen to the show every Sunday morning. You listen. What actions have you taken as a result of this money series? Now check this out. You don't even have to call nobody. Did you go purchase the book, Bridges Out of Poverty, and start reading it? Remember I talked about the book? I told you it changed my whole context and framing around money, around the poverty mindset. I talked from the book. Many of you all wrote, said, man, that was a powerful show. Did you go buy the book? Are you reading it? Do you really believe? Oh, what about this? Lauren Williams, see, you don't got to call nobody to take the action, right? She said the biggest mistake that we make is that we don't save enough money. So did you create a savings plan? Like, did you take action to create a savings plan? And have you started saving? Like, have you actively put money in your savings account since that episode 5 weeks ago? If you've been saving $100 a week, that'd be $500 right now. Have you taken that action? See, because when we believe, we take action. Linal, I listen to you every Sunday. I love your show, man. It inspires me. Have you taken action? See, because if you're not taking action, you're just wasting 2 hours every Sunday morning. That's what you're doing. What about this one? You're like, oh man, you know, Attorney Fenton, I trust him. He provides great information. He came on the show. He talked about establishing your living will and trust. Have you called his office? Have you called? Well, Linal, you don't understand. I've been waiting to talk to my loved ones first, and I've been waiting. I gotta have you called. See, because what happens is folks ain't gonna move until you start moving, and when you start moving, you say, "Hey, I called. I'm establishing a trust." All of a sudden, your children will be like, "Well, where you at, Mama? Where you at, Daddy? I need to. Okay, let's make it happen." But when you calling them saying, "Hey, you know, I want to do this. I need to talk to y'all," they like, "You ain't took action yet." They like, "Okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it." Man, I promise you, take action, people will show up. Some of us, we're like, "Ooh, only life insurance I have is through my job. If I lost my job and I got horribly ill, I don't know how I would take care of myself. I don't know how I don't have living benefits. I'm single. I don't have anything like that." Okay, did you call the office 312-899-6245 to set time up with Sheena? What actions did you take? And here's the thing I can say, and it pains my heart to say it, most of you haven't taken action. The majority of people don't. Here's why. The information you've been receiving is being filtered through those cognitive distortions I talked about. And these cognitive distortions, they've been telling you, you don't have enough. You should have done this years ago. Oh, it can't be that easy. If it worked then, if it worked for them, but it won't work for you. Or they just saying they're going to help so they can get paid. You know what? I'm going to go through this in a minute. Joe, I'm going to come back to this. Joe, good morning. How are you? Let's go to line one. Joe, good morning. How are you, bro?
Yeah, I wanted to just add to the conversation. When you was talking, I thought about the scripture, faith without works is dead.
Man, come on with it.
Because I'm, getting ready to go to church, and that was one of my stumbling points. But I just want to address two things. Like myself, I recently I'm employed and and everything. I have a decent income, but I'm also entrepreneur minded, and I've been trying to get off in playing the stock market and getting my budget together for years. Mm-hmm. And the first big wave, the Bitcoin that everybody was playing a few years ago, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I was kind of skeptical about that, and I didn't really get into it. But then, like recently, everybody on the street was talking about Dogecoin. So what took me to get motivated was my wife and her she's in this female group on YouTube and Facebook, and they really heavily into black female. They heavily into investing for a lot of these little groups. And I'm sitting there listening to them.
Relationships.
They're investing big money. And next thing I know, my wife, she done set up investment accounts, and she's investing, little money. And she didn't even have, even on this curl, this lady's curl product, they're investing money in that, Dogecoin, different little things. And they didn't even really have the the financial background that I had. They didn't even fully understand exactly what they was doing, but they just made that step and got off into it. So when I saw them, I'm like, oh no.
Action.
But then that motivated me to immediately say, you know what, let me go ahead and get me an account. Next thing you know, I put some money into it. But the thing about it, that triggered me to start seeking knowledge. And then I figured, well, okay, what's the best way to invest? Because I'm like 58, and I got a different investment plan than some of these people your age. I gotta get all my money quick. I done wasted enough time as it is. So I started listening to all these different YouTube people and seeking information and looking up stuff on the internet, how to invest. And I came up with, I'm still formulating it, but I came up with a strategy that could work for me, and it's something that I could understand. So, like I said, that's part of the motivation. And then, you know, finding information that's on your level. I found some really good people, you know, white and black, that I understand the way they put it down. And I'm like, you know what? Oh, I can do that. I understand that. It was on my level. And just like my wife's female group, that was on her level.
Right.
I reached out and found some people that's on my level, and I can sit there and listen to them, you know, a little bit every day, not too much, where I'm overwhelmed. But so I just said that to say that, you know, once you take that first baby step, everything starts opening up for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I have been hearing about this for years.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying to you and to the people that's listening is, your words is not in vain, but it's sometimes it takes that one trigger, just like getting saved sometimes. It takes that one trigger for everything to fall into place.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
So I just want to lead the family with that, you know.
That's great.
And I just want to encourage you because, you know, you put out so much information, Linal, that I'm going to be honest, man. I can't even listen to you every week, man, because you put out so much stuff that I have to listen to you maybe once a month. And then that soaks in. Then I said, well, let me go ahead and listen to him again, because he's going to put out so much stuff that I'm going to be like, I feel like I'm backed up against the corner. But I always come back, and I'm always refreshed. So I just want to leave.
No, that's good stuff, man. Thank you for the phone call, Joe. You know, what I got from that, I got a lot from that, Joe. But what I got most is, he said it, when you take action, things begin to open up. And I can even appreciate, you know, your honesty around listening once a month. Because here's the thing, Joe. If you're listening once a month, taking great notes, and then going and executing, then that's more powerful than someone who listens week in and week out and is doing nothing. And so I can appreciate that as well. The idea is that we take action. Okay, so let me come back to what I was covering here a moment ago, because it just occurred to me that I really wanted to do it with no resistance, no distractions. I had some in-studio resistance. I really want to do this with no resistance, no distractions. The resistance will show up right here. I'm about to back up. I'm going to start right here in my notes, where I said, based on what Joel said just a moment ago, most of us have not taken action. I'm sticking with this. Most of us have not taken action. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. I'm going to go through this slowly. The information you're receiving week in, week out from me and from anyone else is being filtered through your cognitive distortions. And this is what your cognitive distortions are telling you. I want you to listen for yours, okay? I want you to listen for yours so you can become aware. Because what I did is I went in, I looked at Dr. Beck and Dr. Burns' 16 cognitive distortions from positivepsychology.com. You can go check it out if you Google cognitive distortions. And I just formulated questions that I've heard clients say over the years. And here are the reasons why we don't take action. Here's the first one. Man, I don't have enough. Like, oh, I'm not going to call Linal's office because I don't want to embarrass myself. He working with people who make X amount of dollars. We don't have enough for that. We don't have enough to get into that conversation. Oh, Attorney Fenton, he's working with people like Linal. He's working with people like Sheena Sapala. He's working with, we don't have enough. Oh, we don't want to do that. We don't have enough. That's one of them. I don't have enough. Or, there's more I should be doing. I want to do these things first. And so I'm going to do these things, and then I'm going to make that phone call. But I'm going to do these things, and you never get around to these things, so you never get around to making a phone call. Here's the other one. Some of us, we're not moving because we feel guilty, because we're telling us, you should have did this years ago. How you at this age and you ain't did none of this? How you letting a young man like this, a young woman like Sheena Sapala, a young man like Ernest Fenton, they on top of theirs. You've known this for 20 years. You've known this for 30 years and you ain't did nothing. Now you gonna call, you should have did something. You should have did this 30 years ago. And so you're stuck in that conversation and you're not taking action. What, you gonna let another 10 years go by? Take action. Here's another one. Oh, it can't be that easy. Something else going on. It can't be that easy. They not telling us everything. Watch, I'm gonna call. They're gonna way more money than I got. It can't be that easy. And so what happens is you start making up all the reasons it won't work for you, and you ain't even picked up the phone. It can't be that easy. It just can't be. It's just not. I'm not going. They ain't getting me. And I'm trying to tell you all, the only reason I work with certain people is because I don't want you to get got. I only work with people only people I'm pushing are the people I trust, the people I've used. Here's another one. Well, that works for him. That works for her. But that would never work for me. I mean, it's just nothing works for me. Everything falls apart, and that's good for them. But every time I try to do something, it just never works. It won't work for me. That won't work for me. Or, yeah, that's funny. Oh, you want to be helpful, huh? You want to help me with my money. Okay. Yeah, y'all want to help because y'all getting paid. They just getting paid. So why am I putting more money in Attorney Fenton's pocket? Oh, look at Sheena Sapala. Look like she making good money. Linal, you ain't hurting. Like, why am I helping you? Why am I putting money in your pockets? And by the way, the whole time you're having that conversation with yourself, you are not paying attention to your goals. You're so concerned about what somebody else might be getting that you ain't getting what's coming to you. Here's another one. Well, I'm young. I got time. I'll be okay. This is great information. It's great information. I'll definitely do something. But it's good to know. I got great notes here. But I'm 24. I'm 25. I'm 28. I'm 30. I'm 31. I'm 32. I got time. I don't have a family yet. This is really good. I'll say starting tomorrow. Oh, I'll start to implement these. I have it in my journal. I'll start doing this a little later. But this is great. This is good stuff. I really enjoy it. Thank you so much. But I have time. I have time. Here's another. And by the way, these are all voices based on your cognitive distortions. Okay? Here's another one. Well, Linal, I appreciate the money conversations, but that's a thing of the world. My riches are stored up for me in heaven, brother. And the Lord knows. And He's been delivering me from financial situation one after the other. What I have, brother, I don't have necessarily a bank. I don't necessarily have savings, brother. I can't necessarily say I can call an attorney, but what I can do is I can fall on my knees and call on the living name of God, and He will deliver me, and He always has. And so that's my excuse for not taking action. I'm just going to stay poor and pray. And let me tell you, poverty is evil. While you're doing all that, poverty is evil. Here's another one. I'm just going through because these are the fallacies and the cognitive distortions and the stories that we tell ourselves and the reasons we don't take action. And all of it feels comfortable. And as a matter of fact, if I said something that triggered you, that might be your stuff. It might be yours. And I'm just trying to help this morning. I'm not getting paid. There ain't nobody paying me for none of this. I get paid to coach. I get paid to train. This is my service right here. I'm just trying to help. Here's another one. You see, Linal, everything you're saying I know already because I've done these things and I tried to do it and I handled my finances the right way and it still didn't work, so this won't work. That's another one. You tried one time and now you gave up. You had one bad financial advisor. Somebody wrote you one bogus insurance policy. You know, like, and now, you know, you work with one bad attorney. And now it just won't work. That's not, you know, oh yeah, that don't work. Let me ask you a question. If your heart beating fast right now, it might be because I triggered you. Did I get into your head? Did I get into your mind? See, like I told you, I've been coaching folks for decades. I've heard it all. And I'm gonna tell you, if you want to transform your way of being, it's time to stop it. I'm gonna go back to my original question. When will you take action? You see, most of us are unaware of our own mental models. Your mental model is the internal picture of how you see the world. And I've been telling you, it exists below your awareness. And because it exists below your awareness, your mental model has gone unexamined. Are you willing to examine yourself? And what happens is when you think this way, this determines how you act and where you don't act. And ultimately, it interferes with your learning. You learn something, but it interferes with your learning. How does it interfere with your learning? Just because you don't take action on what you learned. Your mental model keeps you arrested. So this morning, where are you? Where are you? See, awareness is everything. How aware of yourself, of you, are you? How well do you know yourself? How much do you know about yourself? See, we live in a world that projects everything. It's always the next person. It's always over here. It's always their fault. It's always something else. But how much do you know about you? How much do you know about your thought patterns? How often do you pay attention to your thoughts? Do you really know you? I asked the question in the Discover and Live Your Life Purpose workshop. What are your top 3 passions? What are your top 10 talents? You would think that I said something horrible to people when I ask them that question and look they have on their face. My top 10 talents, Linal? Like I'm unreasonable. I'm asking you about you. You can tell me the top 10 talents of someone else. Look at the people you follow on Instagram. You know everything about them. What do you know about you? Are you an expert on you? Can you predict your own behaviors? Do you know what you're going to say to your spouse when you get upset? Do you already know your mental framing? Do you know your process? Do you know your cycles? Most of us don't know ourselves. And here's the thing. If you don't know you, the likelihood that you'll ever know money is low. And I'm going to tell you something. Somebody might be making money, real good money right now. They're like, ha, 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 really, Linal? Yeah, really. Because just because you're making good money right now doesn't mean that you have money figured out. Case in point, look at all the broke former millionaires. Most lotto winners that started in poverty end their lives in poverty. There's a reason for that. Do you know why you don't save? Do you know why you spend money so unconsciously? Do you know why? Are you willing to do the work this morning to uncover those truths about you? If not for you, are you willing to do it for your children? Are you willing to do it for your grandchildren? So they don't repeat you and your stuff? Are you willing this morning? What resources are you ignoring? Did you know that the major cause of poverty is ignoring resources? The definition of poverty in the book I talked about, Bridges Out of Poverty, the way they said it is the definition of poverty is the extent to which an individual does without resources. We live in the information age. Most of us have a computer in our pocket, yet we're living without resources. Why? It's a decision. But it's a decision you've been making unconsciously. It's a decision that's framed in your thinking. And this morning, my prayer, my hope, is that you heard something today that just shakes you awake, gets you into action in a different way, has you step up to really powerfully transform the experience you have financially. That's my prayer. And that's my hope. Will you make the adjustment? More than anything, will you take action? Take action this morning. Just the one little action you know how to take. Take it. The rest of them will come to you. That's the show. My name is Linal Harris. You've been listening to Inspirational Perspective right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Have a safe Sunday. Be blessed. And take some action.
When you were a little kid and you...
All right, you guys. If this one shifted something for you, it clicked, share it. Give them a timestamp. Tell them where to listen. Tell them where to start listening. But collectively as a community, man, we got to do better. We got to do better. 1.3 trillion documented dollars in the African American community. 1.7 undocumented dollars. 1.7 trillion undocumented dollars. If we were a nation, we'd have the GDP, a GDP higher than that of the United Arab Emirates that we consider rich. Why don't we show up that way? It's time. Let's take some action. Let's take some action.